Whoops. Almost forgot to put in the headphones. Now turn on the rear camera. And okay, both cameras are on. We're ready to go. Let's go ahead and get the heck out of here. Bike's ready to go. Zippity. Okay, welcome to the Good Life meditation for today. Hi, Michael. Today is the 5th day, I believe, of March 2018. Let's get into it. This is my daily exercise of reminding myself of my objectives and principles. I do this in order to keep myself focused and current on the guiding principles of my life, because I don't have any external necessarily. I don't have any. Well, what am I? I'm beating around the bush. I don't have any religion to turn to. Gotta kind of figure this out for myself. Not that all this stuff is of my own design. Some of it is. Largely, I've just simply cobbled together best practices and ideas that I've encountered through life. So let's get into them. The first is. My first objective is to be always ready to die. And since I'm doing this now in the afternoon, I can do this in a more retrospective manner, looking back on the day, and which should be very helpful, I think. Because today a good day to die. It's the end of the day. I still have some important stuff ahead of me, namely home time, dinner with my family, and that's an easy one to let slide, especially when you're tired, especially when I'm tired at the end of the day. But I've got to make sure that I don't do that. And I sometimes, and I will today probably, augment excuse me, my energy with a cup of coffee or a cup of hot chocolate. Maybe tonight I'll have a cup of hot chocolate. Strategically time that about half an hour before dinner, so that I'm on my game. So in terms of a good day to die, I'm asking myself that in terms of financially, in terms of practical matters, which include finances, personally, my relationships, and the ends of my life, the pursuits of my life, my artistic aims. Financially, I'm getting better every day. My life is, since returning to America, has been an uphill battle, getting our lives in good shape, and we're better and better every day. I still haven't got my catastrophic illness coverage. my cancer insurance, as my one insurance agent told me. So still working on that. I'm going to try to remind myself to give MetLife a call tomorrow. I was going to do that today, but I was so busy today, I didn't get even take breaks, which that's a shame. That's not a good use of time. I should take my breaks. That's my time, after all. And I have 20 minutes. That's 40 whole minutes. I can do a lot in 40 minutes. How about in terms of my relationships? Well, I haven't seen my family yet since I got up, just the dog. So I still need to work on that. But if I wasn't to make it home tonight, I think I'm in good shape. I'm not. There's nothing, no words. I can't think of any words that have yet to be said. My wife and daughter both know I love them. I send them a message every day at the start of the day to tell them that. And when I am with them, I do my best to be sincere and in the moment with them. Yeah, so I think I'm in good shape with that. All the others, probably not so much, but I recognize the limits of my capabilities. I probably don't have that ability to maintain a lot of relationships right now, at least not maintain good quality ones. So I just focus on the family, on the ones that are within my immediate sphere. And that includes towards my correspondence. I'm reaching that stage again where I'm having a hard time keeping up with my email, as that's always happened. You know, start off with good intentions, responding to email. The problem is when people send me email and I respond, it begins, not always, but often begins a correspondence chain, and that grows as I continue that until you get to the point where it's just, you come to the end of the day and just the inbox is flooded. And despite my best intentions, here's a motorcycle. Despite my best intentions, I just can't keep up. It's getting to that point again. And if you're hearing this and you've got an outstanding email to me, or you want to send me an email, don't hesitate. I'll catch up. It just may not be as fast as I'd like. And as for my avocation, my artistic stuff, yeah, I think that's in good shape. Mainly my book is done. I can go at any time. Now let's go on to second objective, is the good and effective use of time. Today was a good use of time at work. I really pushed my brain. I'm going to be exhausted tonight. It's going to be a tough one to stay up and active and with my family. And by 8 o'clock, I'll be finished. I had a very productive day. Really, I'm working hard with another team member, or another co-worker actually. We're not on the same team anymore, but a co-worker, and he's helping me to implement some new technology into my processes that is going to really make things nice. I was hoping to have that all ready for a meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Looks like that won't be the case, but that's okay. We're making real good forward progress. And I volunteered for another organization at work that turns out, you know, I'm going to be the project manager of that now. So as long as my supervisor approves, I should be okay. I think I can handle it. Otherwise, the projects are going well. The technology is slowing me down because I'm trying to do all my projects in utilizing new technology. And it's a strange thing, you know, using the right tool and using the right process gives the appearance that you're not being as productive, when in the fact it is when push comes to shove, when there's a question about the scope of the project or the processes or the steps or the schedule. I can easily manage those issues with a good charter, timeline, and project plan. So that's good. Otherwise, good use of time over the weekend. Yeah, really used that time well. I had a great time with my family. I'm really overdue on a trip to the desert. You know, I'm not making good use of time on the solitary time that I have, which is every 2 weeks on a Friday, usually a Thursday and a Friday. Thursday afternoon through all day Friday, and very rarely a Saturday too. I haven't done that in a while, and that's not good. I need to do that stuff. That's it's important for the vocational, the avocational pursuits I have. It's where the muse speaks to me, so to speak, just to kind of sound touchy-feely. Now, next, number 3, the development and maintenance of good, sound life principles. This principle is valuable in making sure that I'm not operating with poor principles or no principles or, you know, silly principles, by reflecting on them each day and helping to keep them foremost in my mind. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. Next is the performance of good actions. Good emotional cultivation, cultivation of good emotional reactions. Just getting into a state where I react well emotionally to every circumstance that happens. And I had a couple of incidents where that was going on today. Not so much emotional challenges, but the individual I mentioned before that I was working with is very smart, and he was leading us down technical paths that I couldn't quite follow. And instead of getting, you know, upset at myself that I couldn't follow, I simply recognized what the limit was, and I didn't just sit there looking dumb. I actually told him, I said, you know, I'm having a hard time keeping up with where you're going, because this is his specialty. I said, I hope you won't mind if while you're working on that particular piece, I'm going to open my computer and work on another project, do some work that I need to do. And he had no problem with that. And I told him, please interrupt me anytime you need me, because he was helping me. I don't want him to think I don't care or I'm disinterested. And he understood that, this was a good use of time. I would feel the same way if I had someone that didn't follow my process. I would feel actually less comfortable if they were just staring at me like a dope, which is what I was doing. I'd rather have them say, hey, I'm here if you need me. I'm going to be productive. That was a good use of time. And I actually had to coordinate my mind to think about that and to put that into play. And it worked. It worked really well. And I think that that's going to set up a working relationship with him, a strategy for our working relationship on a going forward basis. And I'm going to try to cultivate that with others as well. Also had a good emotional reaction in a challenging meeting today where I knew that a volunteer would be needed for some difficult stuff. And it seemed like I was the right person for the job. So I simply laid out, as I could see the opportunity, or the need was going to be asked for, I laid out on a piece of paper in front of me the pros and cons of it and what it would actually take, and the fact that I would need to get authorization from my supervisor. When the time came, I raised my hand and laid out those exact same stipulations, saying I would like to volunteer for this, assuming that I get granted approval by, assuming that I can figure out what percentage of my time is needed, and I get approval from my supervisor, and that was accepted by my management. So good. Yeah. And that's all this stuff is happening this way because I do this out loud every day and then upload it to YouTube. These things are just in my mind. I don't have to dig for them anymore. They just come up. I can see it happening and say, okay, this is an opportunity, Kurt, and it's also a limit because I don't have infinite time. So balance the limit and the opportunity and figure out a way forward, or a way to politely decline, and then with good reason and cause. Look at all the birds. Next is the cultivation of good. No, I did that one. And that was good emotional reaction too. And I think I kind of got things mixed up there for a second. Look at all those birds flying in the heat, the thermocline, I guess. Next is the recognition of performance of good actions, just doing good things throughout the day. I did my little good deeds. Next is recognition of true limits and true opportunity. What are the things that I can and can't do? Well, for example, this morning I did my other video series, the Freeway Bible study, which is basically a skeptic's walk through the Bible. I did that this morning, and when I was done, usually, I was doing this before in the mornings on the same commute, but over there on those lanes. And so I realized I didn't have enough time to do it. So I told myself, you know what, that's a limit. I don't have enough time. This takes about 20 plus minutes, 25 minutes, or up to an hour to do this properly. I only had like 5 or 10 minutes. So I knew I couldn't do it. I recognized the limit. And I asked myself, is there an opportunity there too? And I said, yes, the opportunity is to relinquish my desire to do it in the morning, which is a worthy start in the day, and instead do it in the afternoon going home, which is what I'm doing right now. And because I like doing this in the morning, it's like a splashing cold water on the face, waking me up. I went ahead and did it in truncated form, like my 5-minute version. I can do that. I can whip this out in 5 minutes if I need to. And I did that just before I arrived to work. I actually finished it climbing the stairs to the 5th floor. And so next, that was my 20. Oh, so yeah, limit and opportunity. Next, my 20 objectives. The first of these is the objective of war. To wake up in the morning ready to go to war with everything that I hold true and everything that you hold true. To that point, this new video series I have, the Freeway Bible Study, I can definitely see, and I'm sensitive to the fact that some might believe this is a clandestine exercise in hostility towards the Christianity and believers. And I would be lying if I told you it was not. I do believe that the world would be a better place if we could overcome our interest in superstitions. Any religion or any superstition that's unfounded, well, without good reasons. And I do indeed maintain that my standards are good standards. Just feeling that something is true is insufficient. Even if especially if you think you have some facts, but if you rely on faith as the keystone and holding the whole edifice together, that's a failing weakness in the structure of what you believe. So yeah, I do. So this freeway Bible study thing is certainly an exercise of war upon what Christians believe. But in this time, eventually I'll get to the Quran too, and I'll do the same thing there, and the Bhagavad Gita, and the Vedas, and the Code of Hammurabi, and any other book I can think of, any other religious dogma or tome or creed. Likewise, any pseudoscience. Likewise, particularly any of my own beliefs that can be shown to be resting on faulty reasoning or based more on emotion than facts. So I like to think I'm an equal opportunity critic in that capacity. And that's a good goal every day. As I wake in the morning, I go after these 6 and 20. That's the first thing I do. Try to see if there's some weakness in them. So I usually pick one out. Last time I think I did the purpose. And so after purpose is the atomic principle. So let's ask myself, is that a good thing to believe? So what is the atomic principle? And I haven't gotten to that yet, but the atomic principle, so I'll skip ahead. The atomic principle states that everything in the universe is made of bits and pieces that are flowing and changing and always transforming. Even black holes leak and eventually are transformed into matter that is floating around in the universe in a disorganized state. So I tell myself this so I can remember that I'm also like that. This body that I have and this mind that I have are they're in the process now of falling to pieces. And when I'm gone, this whole apparatus will dissolve away through deterioration and rot, be burned, whatever the case may be. So let me ask myself, is that a good belief? Do I have good reason to believe that that's true? Well, I think I do. I've witnessed bodies decay myself. I know that, and I think we all will agree that when we die, if we're left to our body's own devices, nature's own devices, we will decompose away, and there will eventually be nothing left of us. I found some human bones out in the desert the last 2 years that I watched decomposing it took me about a year to get the sheriffs out there, and I would go out and visit it, and these human bones would slowly disappear. So yeah, even the bones will eventually turn to dust, and I was startled by how dust-like they became. So yeah, that's true, and likewise the mind. There's no reason to think that there's anything special or spiritual or mystical or soul-like in our heads. So that too is going to be gone. So I think I have good reason. All the empirical evidence seems to point to that fact that that's the case. And likewise, everything in the universe as well. Even something like gold that stays in one state for a very, very long time is subject to eventually decay away. I think, right? I mean, can gold? Well, I guess so. If a supernova can evaporate, so I guess why couldn't a gold ring, given sufficient time? Now I'm speculating on that one. I don't know that one for sure. So, but I think it holds up there. So there, I just uncovered a potential, not a weakness, but a point that needs further consideration, and I'll look into that. So I'll make a mental note to myself, put a pin in that. Is gold forever? Is it diamond forever, as they like to say? So what are the cons of that? Is there possibly any negative in thinking that the universe is made of bits and pieces that are forever changing, flowing, and becoming other things? I can't think of any cons. It's positive all the way down. well, unless you think of it as a con to think of life that way, if you'd rather think that you have a soul that's going to live forever. But I say that's a con. That's a con you can live with. A con that makes us uncomfortable is not a con. An absolute con. A con is something that causes us to believe things that are untrue. So that's no con in my book. Okay, now next is the next principle is the principle of wait a minute, I did. Look at that helicopter up there. I did atomic principle of purpose. Principle of reason. Gosh, did I spend all that time on the atomic principle? No. The principle of reason is the utility that somehow I got way off track, but I think I'm okay. Oh no, I did. I was talking about the Wow, I'm all over the place. I really lost. I'm like a record that was playing that got skipped halfway across the thing, and I don't even know which song I was on. So I'm just going to go back to the principles real quick. I'll go into my 5-minute fast mode right up to the homunculus, because I know I didn't say that. So principle of war, go to war. That's where I was on war the whole time. And after war is the principle of reason is in the instrument of that war, and reason is simply looking at the world and collecting facts and putting them together in a way that makes sense and does not rely on the injection of feelings or being comfortable about them, but we accept the facts for what they are, even if they make us uncomfortable, even if they scare us. Reason, the sub-principles of reason are honesty and objectivity. The next is the principle of the homunculus. A word which simply means like a little man. Imagine you have a hinge on your skull, you open it up, and there's a little guy inside that's pulling levers and, pushing buttons, or a gal if you're a woman. Of course there is no such thing. But I use that image to remind myself of my consciousness, which kind of acts like it operates. You can almost feel it, right behind your eyes. You can almost feel like there's someone back there looking out through your eyeballs, riding things. If your hand gets cut off, you're not in mortal danger of losing your homunculus. But if your head gets cut off, or you get some damage to the brain, then that's quite possible that the homunculus can be damaged or destroyed. Another important part is to remember that the homunculus is subject to die when we die. Will not survive our death. There's no reason to think we have anything immortal in terms of like a soul or anything like that goes on. So live well in this little bit of time you got. Remember that. I like to say, remember that emptiness before you were born? Yeah, neither do I. And I have a feeling it's going to be just like that again. I don't know that for sure, but I have no reason to believe anything else. No good reason. Next is the home of good and evil. The homunculus is the arbiter of good and evil. Our consciousness is how we make sense of the world and decide what is right and wrong. And that's a weighty thing and a difficult thing. It's weighty because that means all the responsibility, and difficult for the same reason. It's weighty and difficult because that means all the responsibility lies on our shoulders to figure out right from wrong. And we need to do the hard work, the heavy lifting of looking at the world and evaluating things based on our experience, our conversations with others, and trusting our ability to adjudicate the life that we live and our impression of others. And it's perfectly fine for us to come up with ideas and to make pronouncements of right or wrong. And then also perfectly fine to offer others to counter that. And where it would only be reasonable if we listened to what they said, discard it if it's nonsense, and take it to heart and listen carefully if it's sound, and then work towards a common understanding and a common agreement. That's a much better way to proceed as human beings than to simply rely on dogma and to say, I have right and wrong on authority from on high. There's no question. There's no subject to interpretation, because that's what leads to beheadings and to excommunication. Well, maybe that's not a good example. Yeah, it does lead to that too. Beheadings and wars and just, intolerance in general, and we can't come to a compromise if that's the case. We just end up putting up fences and creating one more schism, and then another schism, and another, because these differences will always arise from our different experience. Next is, next, number 5 is purpose. The main purpose of life is to live, to stay alive, and to have children and perpetuate our genes into the next generation. Beyond that, there really is no purpose. You can die and get out of the way. But that's not really a very fulfilling life. Not that kids aren't great, but we want a little more than that, especially because we live so long in the first world at least. So why not develop some other purpose? And that's up to you to decide. And it's up to me to decide. And I've decided my purpose is to live a virtuous life, to be a virtuous man, where virtue is defined as the objective improvement of well-being for everything that's alive. That sounds like kind of a tutti frutti hippie goal, but it's a very good goal. I mean, if we, this is the kind of thing that makes us think, well, okay, well, the decision that we're deciding upon, what is the net, how does that benefit things or harm things in the net balance of things? I mean, are we interjecting risks or dangers or taking away from well-being in such a way that is not worth the benefit that we get? Is it worth our while to continue digging holes in the ground for coal, polluting the atmosphere and as well as natural habitat, and when we should be putting those resources perhaps on renewable fuels? Is it worthwhile to pursue segregation, the separation of the sexes, or not segregation of the sexes, but inequality of the sexes, and segregation, the separation, and inequality of the races, in some attempt to maintain some worldview that demands allegiance to a particular heredity or race or skin color or ethnic creed or religion for that matter? But what is the long-term gain or problem that's introduced with that? So ask ourselves all these things and then work out the answers and argue again and figure it out and come to agreement and then act accordingly and vote accordingly. Next, number 6, the atomic principle. We covered that one already. Next is the principle of nature. Everything in the universe has some particular nature, including this freeway, which its nature is to start piling up traffic right about now. So I'm standing up as the brake lights go on ahead of me, and I'm going to get ready to start splitting some lanes carefully. So it's the nature, and this guy wants to come over. Come on in. Or maybe not. So it's the nature of the 55 freeway to pile up right about here as it closes in on the, the 91 as it closes in on the 55 interchange. So I'll slow down my bike, lift up my visor, and ride along a little slowly. And it would be foolish of me to expect anything else. It does this almost every day when I ride on the freeway, Monday through Friday. So I should be relaxed and calm. This is what it's like to drive on the 91. And this will last for about a mile or two, and then the traffic will ease up and we'll continue. It's also in my nature as a motorcycle rider to be able to split through the lanes as I'm about to do. Carefully, of course. It's also in my nature to be bringing about more risk as I do this, right? Because I could easily get into an accident as I slide between the cars. I try to do this with all things, not just cars and freeways, but also people and things and circumstances and days. It's the nature of a Monday to be a tough day, as off the weekend and ready to pile on a new week's worth of work. It's the nature of some of my employees to have particular character traits or ways of thinking or communicating, challenges therein, skills therein. It's worth it to identify what those are so I can work with them in a more effective manner. Likewise myself. What is my own nature? What skills and weaknesses do I possess that I can work on and recognize through the day? It's in the nature of so many things. It's in the nature of life to die. So I shouldn't be surprised if that happens as well. So you get the point. Next is the principle of maturity. Maturity is that state of having wisdom and the fortitude to do something about it, to act on that wisdom and carry on. It's one thing to actually know what works, but quite another thing to have the strength to do it. So you can gain lots of wisdom through life, but it's a little harder. No, it's not harder. I'm getting confused because I'm going through this traffic. That's a tricky spot right there. It's harder to get the wisdom. You can teach the fortitude early on. You can train young men and women, for example, in the military, to follow orders and to carry on and to fight to the end and die in a cause they may not necessarily understand. It's harder for them to get to the point to be able to know which is the best course to take. So you combine those two together. That's a powerful thing when you do that through generations, like the military does, where you've got the wisdom of the generals and the fortitude and strength of the young soldiers. It's a rare and special individual that can combine both of those in themselves at an early age in life. Heaven knows that's not me. Next is the principle of the social principle. Human beings are social animals. We need one another to survive, and our best ends are social ends. So if you want to feel good about yourself and just be really making the best of your time. It's worthwhile to look after social ends. I'm tailgating this woman, so I'm sorry, let me back off. You know, what can you do to make the world a better place? Social ends, you know, things that, goals to like contribute to the improvement of the common well-being, as many as possible. I guarantee you'll be happy feeling doing that. Happy with yourself, happy with the results that you see around you, and you'll leave the world having dropped a lot, create a much more bigger and larger and more powerful ripples through the world of goodness, of virtue. There we go. Next is the Feast of Offal. As we move through life, we get upset, we get frustrated, let down, passionate, whatever the heck may be. And this is all because life doesn't perhaps go quite the way we expect it to. We're surprised positively or negatively to having an emotional reaction. When we do that, we kind of set out ripples into the world of anger, frustration, passion. Hold on, I'm going to sneeze. I'm going to lift the helmet. Hey, it worked. I was able to lift the helmet and sneeze outside the helmet. So when we do that, especially when we send out those negative things, lifting our hand on the freeway and road rage, or flipping somebody off, or sending a nasty email, whatever the case may be. It's a funny thing. We give that off, and others tend to pick that up, and they don't just discard it. Like if you found someone dropped a half a hot dog on the ground, you wouldn't pick that up and eat it. Well, I've known people who would. There was a time in my life when I may have, but for the most part you wouldn't. So why would we pick up somebody else's negative emotions, or even their positive emotions, if those positive emotions are intemperately applied? Why would we do that? It's a mystery, but we do. Someone comes by, flips me off, then I grab that and go, what's he doing flipping me off? What an asshole! And I'm going to get and speed up and go over there and, menace him from my motorcycle, and we're going to have road rage, and that just leads to nobody, and it pisses everybody else off around us that are seeing it. They're saying, well, look at those fools, what idiots, And you see how it's spreading? This Feast of Offal is the emotions are being passed out and consumed one after another. And then we take that anger home, and our wife says, your husband says, how was the day? It was, it's just such assholes on the freeway, making it tough. And now we brought that bad emotions home to our family. It just goes on and on throughout the day. So with this principle, number 10, the Feast of Offal, I try to remind myself to, one, not contribute to that feast in my own way through undisciplined, untempered living, unprincipled living. So I try to live a principled life and a disciplined life, holding in my emotions, because I can handle them better ways. I don't have to give them out. I know very well how to deal with my emotions on my own. Hold them in. Don't share that out. It's like sharing having a barf bag and open it up for everybody to see. I can keep that thing closed. There's better ways to handle barf. Toss it down the toilet. Go take a long swim in the pool and pump those emotions out. Likewise a swim, or go have a constructive talk with your spouse or someone you care about and say, I just gotta share with you. That's a little different, right? That's a little different from venting. Coming home and saying, getting mad at them because you're mad. If you're just saying, hey, can I talk? I got to get something off my chest. Nothing about you. I just need someone to talk to. Sure, we'd all feel that. We feel great. We feel great that someone that they feel like they can confide in us, right? That's a great way to handle it. That's one of the things about having a partner. It's good to do. And if you don't have a partner necessarily, maybe find a friend. So that's the Feast of Offal. Try to avoid that. Next, 10 more to go. Is Temperance, and the sub-principles of Temperance are suffering, simplicity, and apathy. And Temperance is the controlled consumption of our emotions, And basically what I was just saying a moment ago with the Feast of Offal, we exercise control so that we don't, give out that feast, and also so that we can regulate ourselves, and it's a very powerful thing to be able to temper not just your emotions, but your appetites. You can temper how much we eat and drink and work and play and have sex and whatever the case may be, and especially temper our expression of emotions. So I said there's three things. Suffering is this first sub-principle. We suffer when we deny ourselves what we want. Simplicity is another sub-principle, because thank you, sir, the simple life is a temperate life. And apathy, because apathy, though it seems to have a bad rap, apathy is actually a superpower. Thank you. Where you can recognize what is not within your control and be apathetic towards its impact on you. Like if, again, coming back to traffic, I'm apathetic to the fact that the traffic is slowing down right now. There's really absolutely nothing I can do about this. So there's no sense in me getting upset over something that's outside the scope of my control. What I can control in this and all circumstances is my reaction, how I choose to react to this. That is within my control. And I can choose to exercise that power instead. Next is number 12, agency and the great indifference. I think that's alive as an agent. Of course, an agent is something that acts on the world, right? Even plants are agents to a degree, even bacteria, of course. So, when you subtract out all the agents in the world, what would Hermione do? Bumper sticker. When you subtract out all the agents, you're left with all the basically inorganic, inanimate items, right? And they don't give a damn. Those rocks over there don't. Soil, well, maybe the soil has bacteria that kind of cares. In its own in its own bacteria-like way. Oxygen doesn't care, the outer space doesn't care, a mountain doesn't care, the sea doesn't care. Since there doesn't really be much that cares, it doesn't look like there's really any God back there who cares either. So in that fact, that's the great indifference. My suggestion is to look towards each other. You know, look over at the car right now that I'm about to pass. But don't be creepy. I was going to say give her a smile, but that's kind of creepy, so I won't do that. But you know what I mean, if you catch the eye of somebody in a surreptitious manner, is that the right word? Does that mean sneaky too? Am I being creepy again? In a kind of a happenstance manner, you give them a smile. You know, be your agents. Share that agency. Don't look for any artificial, fake, made-up agent to come in and save the day. Next, the best seat in the house. To not want to be anyone else, be anywhere else, or be doing anything else. But to be okay with just who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing right now. All the while working towards making the world a better place and my own life a better place. That's a really neat trick to be able to do that. It's like enjoying the feast while refraining from the. No, that's not true. It's like, because you're not refraining, you're eating whatever comes. You're enjoying whatever happens to be in your plate, whatever passes by, without reaching out in a gluttonous manner at a dish full of savory yummies that are a little too far outside our reach, and making a glutton of ourselves in the process. But just wait. If it comes by, then great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. And you know what? What even more powerful if you just let it pass. That's not my own idea. I think that's from the Enchiridion. By Epictetus, a famous Stoic philosopher. I think he specifically talks about that, or maybe that's Marcus Aurelius that talks about the feasts like that. Anyway, playing directly overhead. So next is the Path of Wildness. At certain points in our life, we are faced with difficult life junctures, like, for example, deciding which college to go to, or after college, what to do next. Is it going to be right away off to the career? Do we head off to graduate school? Do we take a gap year? Do we tour Europe to become a surf vagabond? Do we go to Japan to learn a second language, or Germany, or whatever the heck it may be? What are we going to do? All these things. And when we're faced with those, sometimes it's a little easy to be overwhelmed. It's like, I don't know, there's so many things to consider. I just don't know what to do. Believe me, I've had so many email from people over the years who are in that position. And so it's easy actually to just keep kicking the can of decision down the road so long that eventually the can's gone. I mean, our decade has passed, our 20s are gone, and now it's time for our 30s. And now it really is important then to maybe consider a career and a family and all those kinds of things. So maybe our opportunity is lost. So watch out for that. So I recommend when that happens and we we need to make a decision is to collect some facts. Ask ourselves to get as much information about our in question as possible, and then at a certain time actually mark it on the calendar. Say, I'm going to make a decision then. And when that time comes, if you really don't have enough facts and you really think you need more time, then give yourself more time within reason. And when that time comes, likewise do the same, but only to a certain point. That's again the danger of kicking the can down the highway forever. At some point it's time to say, you know, that's it, time to make a decision, and say, I don't have enough facts, but I'm going to use the facts, and then in the end I'm going to weigh in my final decision with my gut feeling. I don't like to do anything by my gut feeling, but sometimes that's the most expedient way to move forward, because there is virtue in moving forward in a finite life, right? So what I do, and this actually came from when I used to explore in the wilderness in Japan and elsewhere, and I would, come to a fork in the canyon. I didn't know which way to go, because I always go wander around aimlessly without a map. And I would just kind of say, well, try to imagine what it might look from the sky, the terrain, or my past experience in the area, and eventually just use my gut and say left, right, whatever. A lot of times that led me right to the edge of a waterfall, and I had to go backtrack or dangerously try to scramble down or go around. Other times that led right to where I needed to be. In either case, I had a great adventure, and in either case, I exercised a decisive move, which has great power and virtue in its own right. Even if it leads us off the cliff to death, there is virtue in dying while actively engaged in living, even if it means a shorter life. And that's my humble opinion. But that said, let me have my disclaimer, be careful. Like I like to say, be safe but not too safe. Okay, so next, that's the risk of avoiding risk. Now no, that's the next one, is the risk of avoiding risk. When we're young, we have, the risk of getting a good job, getting good education, finding someone to live with, not necessarily in that order, and, saving money for retirement and home and all that stuff, and taking care of our kids. There's also deeper level risks of, become a self-actualized individual, to find what interests you, to explore the world, get as well-rounded as you can, make a lot of mistakes, become comfortable with your own personal frailties, and then become a well-rounded individual. I think you'll live a happier life if you are so inclined. There are people who are not so inclined, who are perfectly happy. They just want to finish school, get a great job, find someone to settle down with who thinks like them, raise some kids, and spend their evenings at home and their weekends at the movies or whatever. I'm not being belittling. I'm just saying that's the way a lot of people are. That's fine. My message is just, if you're not one of those, if you think, I want something more, I want to travel around the world, I want to speak new languages, I want to be challenged and make mistakes, and all these types of things, then attend to those things. And I recommend giving yourself the whole decade of your 20s. Don't get married until after that. Finish school, go as far as you can. I recommend getting a master's degree in whatever the hell you want. Speech communication is a great degree. It's my personal recommendation. It won't prepare you for anything, but it will prepare you for everything. I gotta find a better way to say that. And then go out, travel, see the world, all that. And when 30 comes stumbling back to wherever it is you're going to settle down, tan, craggy hair, ear grinning from ear to ear, broke, your confidence is shot because, but it reinforced at the same time through the many mistakes that you've made, but also the lessons you've learned. It's a strange dichotomy. It's a strange balance of having humility balanced tempered with confidence, of the confidence born of having survived the great adventure of your 20s, and then settle down to the rest. And I guarantee you, I can't guarantee you, I think you're going to find that you're going to be a more attractive person to the opposite sex, especially people like yourself. And if you can find someone like that, you're going to have and it's okay even if you don't. Sometimes the opposites are work well together. But anyway, I think you're going to live a more interesting life. You'll certainly be the most interesting person at the cocktail party. Next, and I'm almost at my off-ramp. I got to finish up. Next is Sin and Damnation. There are 5 sins in my worldview: falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, and dogma. And I'm going to be fast now, I think, because I'm near the end. Those are pretty self-evident what they are. They're all basically believing or willingness to believe things that are not true or are not demonstrated to be true, and or not well demonstrated to be true. And I think that the damnation part comes in believing things that are not true. I wouldn't want to live that way. I'd rather not know. I'd rather just say, I don't know. I'd be okay with that. Some people aren't. Next is the Complete Oblivion. When we die, it appears that we're gone. We wink out, our bodies decompose away, and our minds wink out like a flame on a candle being blown out, or a song with the music when a record stops, whatever the case may be. And that means that there's no final reunion with the ones we love who went before or die after us. There's no final reconciliation with them if we left them on bad terms. And there's no final justice, because it looks like there's no afterworld where justice can be sought. So better seek after those things now. Reach out to the people you want to connect with now. Reconcile with them. And seek after justice. Make things right with every way within your power, legally and ethically. Next is, that was the Complete Oblivion. Now is the Great Life Adventure. I talked about that just a moment ago. I recommend giving yourself the whole decade of your 20s to have a great life adventure. Go out, see the world, explore things, learn new languages, go as far as you can with education. Don't get anybody pregnant. And then when you're done, that's when you can settle down to the sane and sober life. Next, and also give yourself as many life adventures as you can throughout your life. I try to give myself one every 2 weeks on a Thursday and a Friday when I head out to the wilderness on this little old motorcycle of mine. Next is, finally, after the great life adventure, is the season of philosophy. Time comes in our life when the words come. The muse starts to speak. Nothing mystical, nothing spiritual. It's just our creativity speaking. When that happens, you better write it down, because that's going to pass. It'll be gone. And that's your chance to put down some words for those to follow. Your kids. If you decide to write a book or an essay or a blog, you can get out to more people that way as well. But don't miss that opportunity, because if you skip it, you won't get it back. And guess what? What you got to say today, you won't have to say that same thing tomorrow. It'll be different. So you better say it, write it down every time the muse speaks. Next is and I'm almost done. This is the last one. Arena and utility. Life is an arena for the development, recitation, refinement, execution, practice, and enjoyment of your own life principles and objectives. In the reverse order. Objectives first, and then principles. Because objectives are what you're after, and principles are the what will get you there, or at least keep you on track on the road. And everything in life is an opportunity for that. Every day is a series of arenas. Imagine an arena like a staging ground, or imagine the gladiatorial place where you can come out with your weapons, and these are the utilities. Your principles and your objectives, that you can do battle, or you can do worthy battle with the foes of your own weakness and your folly and your laziness, to be better, do better, and live better. I try to remind myself, and today was just such a day, and I think I did pretty good in that capacity. I worked really hard at it today. You can lift the bike up on its center stand. It was a good day. It was a very good day. Yeah, I could die today. I hope I don't. I want to see my wife and daughter, and I want to see tomorrow. So I'm going to do everything I can to stay healthy and happy. Stay healthy and good. Be good for yet another day. Let me go ahead and take off the helmet. Gosh, I like this helmet. And I'd like to thank you for joining me for another Good Life meditation. Have a wonderful day. Make it a great life. Make it a good life. Take care. Bye-bye.